catches, puts up a three. One go. Rebound box.
Now head over in this direction. Gone to three.
Tie game with 5 seconds remaining. The impossible has happened.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
Anthony for three. Puts it in. Bridges. Oh my God. Oh, what? Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Curry way downtown. Bang!
And we are back. Welcome back to Cam's Corner. Today's episode will feature another University of Rhode Island legend, part of the 1988 Sweet 16 team and professional overseas as well. And Kenny Green. Kenny, thank you for taking the time to be on the show, man. How's it going?
Everything's well, Cam. How are you?
Not bad, man. I saw you just followed me back on social media and stuff, so I appreciate that, showing support.
No
So where are you originally from?
I'm from Connecticut.
You're from Connecticut? Yep.
Yeah.
So when was basketball like introduced to you, and like when did you start to like develop a skill for it at the early ages?
More or less growing up, I was a baseball guy. So at younger ages, I played a lot of baseball. But because of all my friends were into basketball, we would go to the park on daily basis and, play in the park and stuff like that. But I really never took it serious because I was so into baseball, probably until my freshman year of high school. I saw that there was a little bit of talent there, and that's really when I really decided to really start pursuing it.
So it was baseball, like you said before, high school. That was all.
Yeah. Once I got to high school, I actually saw that I was better in basketball than I was in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So it just made sense just to pursue basketball. So.
Right. So, like early stages and stuff like that. Baseball obviously being like your main sport. Who was like somebody that was like a role model for you growing up? Could be a parent, someone that you looked up to in a way, and just following that sport aspect.
Well, for me, it was I grew up in a house with household with 3 women.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom, my grandmother, and my 2 aunts. So that makes 4 actually. Until my grandmother passed away. And then there's 7 siblings. So my brother, he was away at school as I was coming up, being the second oldest. So he was very rarely around. So I literally spent a lot of time with women, but I spent time with women who were extremely strong women. And for my mom, who literally worked 2 to 3 jobs as I was growing up, there was never time for her to come to baseball games or anything to that matter. But my sisters did. So there was always support there, no matter what I was doing in whichever sport it was. So if I had to really talk about who I may have idolized or who, was there, it would be the women in my family.
Yeah, of course. Going off of that story, I mean, I grew up similar. Like I'm the only boy in my family, so they all showed support. Going to my games and things like that. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of going back to maybe like the sport aspect of it, like going back from baseball and basketball, like who was a player maybe who played baseball in MLB or maybe in the NBA that you kind of tried to mimic into maybe your game on the field or your game on the court as well?
Well, basketball-wise, legitimately, it was Daryl Dawkins.
Mm-hmm.
I just, for me, it was watching this guy. Offensively, he was very limited. I mean, if you really break down his game, just extremely limited offensively. Yeah. But it was just watching him dunk. I mean, it was just this guy has so much aggression in him. It was like who hurt you as a kid?
Yeah.
I mean, if he got anywhere near the basket, he was trying to dunk the ball. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was just so fascinating. And I really liked that part of the game itself. So as I started getting a little bit taller and more athletic in the game itself, I mean, literally, anytime I got near the basket, I didn't care if I missed it or not. I was trying to dunk the ball. Mm-hmm. And it was because of Daryl Dawkins that, that was the case. In baseball, honestly, it was probably Reggie Jackson. it just seemed like everything he did from batting to fielding, it was just so cool and so smooth. I mean, it's like he didn't sweat when he played. And it was just a gift that he had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I always ask like a lot of these athletes that have, that are in like college and things like that. I've talked to a few professional coaches as well. They've always been like multi-sport athletes growing up like yourself. So like going from like a baseball kind of aspect, transitioning into your basketball play. I know you said that obviously you focused on basketball and that took you throughout your career. Was there like something like a skill or like a mindset that you always had going in onto the field and the court that kind of like transitioned over and like helped your play in like both aspects?
Yeah, and it's it's probably the only thing that really set me apart in that is that my sisters would say to me, "If you're gonna suck, we're not coming to watch you." And
Yeah.
I mean, and it was basically, I mean, it was that I was like, well, first of all, they're taking time out of their day because literally, even though I'm not the only boy, but I'm literally the only boy in the family at that time. So they're taking the time out of their day to come see me. So whatever I'm doing, I can't disappoint them because and they were serious. They're like, if you suck, we're not coming anymore. So it was to the point where I can't not be the only kid at a baseball game or at a basketball game with no family members there.
Right.
So it was just, that was the drive for me, just to make sure that I always had somebody there. And I knew if I did something, they wouldn't come anymore. So that would be their excuse not to have to go, that they can do whatever they wanted to do. So that was my driving force.
Yeah, a lot of athletes, in the end, like professionally, they say it all the time in interviews. Like the fans come to, they pay to come see us play. So it's like if we disappoint or if they're hurt a certain game, it's like, what am I paying for at the end of the day? If I go see the Lakers play and LeBron James is hurt, it's like, that's what you're going to see at the end of the day, and that's what people went to go see you play when you were at URI and things like that. And I wish I was, I was born that time to watch you play, but before we get into that, like you went to high school at Holy Cross in Waterbury, Connecticut, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So growing up in like high school, like how tall were you going into your freshman year, and how fast did you grow throughout your 4 years?
My freshman, sophomore, and the end of literally the beginning of my the beginning to the middle of my junior year, I was probably about 6'3". The end of my junior year to the beginning of my senior year, I went from 6'3" to 6'8" over the summer.
That's crazy.
I literally grew 5 inches.
5 inches.
When I got back to school, our coach, God rest his soul, his name's Tim McDonald. He literally looked at me and asked me who the hell I was. He said, "I actually don't know who you are." And I'm like, I'm looking at him like, it's the same. He's like, "No, your face has changed. Everything has changed about you." I was like, it was a growth spurt over the summer.
So you said you were like 6'3", right? Freshman year?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I mean, still compared to high school, that's kind of still like a center position, like power forward aspect.
Yeah.
Did you ever in your career, like playing basketball, ever try were you ever put at like the guard position, like because of your height, or like have you always played a center, because that was kind of like?
I mean, younger, well, put it this way, playing in the park, there's no positions.
Right.
Growing up, there's no forward, there's no guard, you get the ball, you bring the ball up to the court. And playing pickup ball in the park, it's not a free for all. I mean, I was a little lucky and I was a little blessed because I was able to play with the older guys. So the older guys had one rule when we played. If you don't play hard, you don't play at all. And we knew that if we got to a point where they said you can't play, that's a whole day that you're not going to play, because they're going to make sure that you can't play.
Right.
So in that sense, it didn't make a difference what position you were playing or where you were. As long as you were playing hard and they were okay with that, then you were able to play. So growing up, no, not really. I mean, we just played everywhere and anywhere.
Kind of transitioning from like obviously play on the court, like in the parks and stuff like that, to like the high school level. Did you ever try to like instill some of those skills and like, ask like you said, you're bringing up the ball at the 4, you're doing all these kinds of different things at, 6'5", going on to 6'8". Did you ever try to like do certain things that a big might not, do during that time era?
Well, when I got to school, I actually came into school with a kid who ended up being an All-American, a McDonald's All-American. And he was our 3 guard. And then our point guard was a kid from my neighborhood. So really, from my freshman year to my senior year, I never had the opportunity because I had these two guys there that really dominantly controlled the ball.
Mhm.
So it was never, I don't want to say an option, but it wasn't feasible for me to be handling the ball because we had two very good ball handlers. So it was pressure on me that I didn't have to worry about.
Yeah, definitely. And like at the time, high school, like were there any like AAU or like travel teams or like camps, like college showcase that you involved in to kind of put your name more on the map?
You know, my senior year, at that time, travel ball really wasn't that big. It was more or less people were trying to get to camps. I really wasn't that interested in going to camps until my senior year. 5-star with Garfunkel was the big thing. So we got invited, myself, my 2-guard, and then our All-American kid. We all got invited to 5-star. So we ended up going to 5-star. And that's really when I got my first taste of true competition, nationwide competition.
Yeah.
And it opened up my eyes. It was like to the point where I was like, this is something that I really, really like. It's something I really want to do.
Yeah. And a lot of people I've talked with, like, Silk, of course, like people that have played a little bit later, like you probably know Ernie D, like
Sure.
PC legend, like they all went to like camps because like that's what the thing, like AAU ball and travel has just tremendously grown over the years, and like that's like kind of the route to go on. Those are the teams that are going to get your name out there. So like kind of going off of that, like when did since that camps was like the only kind of way to get your name out there more and more, like when did college like coaches start like finding interest in you and like things like that, like towards your junior and senior year?
It was more the beginning of my senior year, and it was all by accident. A lot of my attention came from them coming to see the All-American kid on my team.
Yeah.
And then when they would come see him play, and then there'd be something in that I did that would spark their interest. My senior year, I didn't have a lot of interest. I had a lot of Division II interest and a lot of Division III interest. I mean, the only Division I schools I had interest from were URI, Wake Forest, and then UConn came in at the end of the recruiting. But I always knew I wasn't going to UConn because I didn't want to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been to UConn, and I would say to myself, there's no way I can live 4 years here. I'm like, it's in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing here. When Rhode Island came down, at this time it was Brendan Malone. He was the coach. And he came with his wife, and they came to see our All-American kid. And it was actually a game that I had a very good game. I think I ended up with 30 and 20 and like 12 blocks. I had a triple-double. It was my first triple-double. And on the way home, his wife told me this story. She tells me the story every time I talk. She's like, I told Brendan, never mind the All-Star, the All-American kid. I like that kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, they ended up calling my mom and my aunt, talking to them and telling them that they were going to start recruiting me. They were going to offer me, a scholarship and stuff like that. And maybe, I want to say maybe 2 weeks later, without even knowing, I come home from school and I'm asking my sisters, well, where's everybody at? They're like, well, they went up to Rhode Island. I'm like, why is the farthest I've ever known my mother to go might have been Bridgeport, which is probably 35 minutes away.
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing in Rhode Island? They're like, we don't know. So they came back they went on my recruitment trip, which was the weirdest thing, but it was how it happened. So they went, Coach Malone and his wife took them around the campus, showed them everything and stuff like that. They came back home and literally walked in the door and said, this is where you're going to school at.
Wow.
And that was the end of it.
You were like, all right, yep, I'm going. Like,
I mean, legitimately, that was the end of it. I mean, they came back. It was literally like Coach Malone and his wife recruited my mother and my aunt.
Yeah.
And they came in the door and said, this is where you're going to go to school at.
And that must have felt good too, because you said growing up with them and like those were like the inspirations and like the people that, shaped you to be the person and player that you are, like knowing that they cared that much about your family first must have been a great feeling for you too.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it meant the world to me.
Yeah.
That and when kids get recruited, all the time a parent comes up with the kid or something like that.
Mhm.
But for me not to even see the school and to know that they took the time to say, okay, let's bring these two women up here first and show them what this school is about, and then we'll bring him up after.
Mhm.
For them to do that, that meant the world to me.
Yeah, definitely.
And that solidified it for me.
Yeah, it worked out. Like you said, that was like one of the only Division I schools, and UConn, obviously, you said it came like after the fact, and like you said, you didn't want to go there anyways. But right, so like, I guess kind of going off of that, like your rookie year, like 6'8", everyone's expecting you to play, like you were in that McDonald's All-American game, and throughout like your whole career, and obviously that doesn't happen. People always have bad games, things like that. So
Yeah.
Like you said, going into a school that you barely even, you didn't go to with your aunt, like, what's your mindset going in your freshman year? Obviously not knowing anybody, and like I said, like Silk was 2 years older than you, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so meeting these new guys, what was that mindset like going in freshman year?
Well, I mean, our recruiting class was myself, Bonzi Colson, John Evans, and so when we came in the summer, all three of us came in the summer. So it made the transition a little bit easier because we actually knew each other and we got to know each other.
Okay.
So that made it a little bit easier. But the first day stepping on the floor, there was no butterflies, there was no nervousness, nothing. Because to me, it was basketball. I mean, regardless of who it was against or whatever else, it was still basketball. So I wasn't really concerned about that part of it. The summer basketball program was a lot more just conditioning and drills than it was anything else. So I mean, that was easy. Once we really got into the flow, once school started, it's when competition really picked up. Mm-hmm. Guys were bigger, stronger, faster. So I had to adapt really quickly. Just so happens that, and I think it was a blessing in disguise. My freshman year, I was 5 games into the season. The practice before our 5th game, I went up for a dunk, dunked the ball, came down, caught my thumb in the net, and literally tore my thumb, all the ligaments in my thumb. So I ended up redshirting my freshman year, actually.
Wow.
So it was a blessing in disguise, because it gave me a year to grow, to get a little bit more physical, get a little bigger, a little stronger. So I mean, that was a good thing.
So you still ended up playing the rest of the year, though, right?
No.
Oh, you didn't play, so
I redshirted the whole year. Yeah.
Wow. So how did the team pan out your first year go? Like you said, you had a red shirt, so you didn't really get that experience to be on the floor. But how did the team do as a whole?
Oh, we sucked.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, my freshman year, Silk and Tommy's sophomore year, it was tough.
Something like 9 wins or something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't win a lot of games, but we knew that the talent was there.
Right.
We just couldn't, it just didn't come together during that season. But we knew, just watching each other play, that the talent was really there. Mm-hmm. So we were really excited about the following season because we knew we had something special. Yeah,
and like that following year, you guys, I believe it was like around 20 wins, something like that. Like
yeah, we ended up in the NIT.
Yeah, the NIT, and then explain some of those experiences. Yeah.
It was disheartening getting to the NIT. Now, take for granted, none of us had been to any postseason play.
Yeah.
But the goal for everything is to get to the NCAA tournament, go as far as you can, win the NCAA championship. So that was the goal, and we thought with the season that we had that we were kind of overlooked by the NCAA committee. We felt that we were good enough to make it that year. And what they have now is the first 4 in, first 4 out, whatever else. At that time, it was just the bubble.
Yeah.
You're on the bubble. Mm-hmm. And I think we were the last team on the bubble. And we didn't get in. So there was a little not even a little, there was a lot of disappointment at that point. And I think it carried over to us when we went to the NIT, because we were still really focused on that. This is where we should have been. We should have we should have been in the tournament and stuff like that. So I think that kind of hurt us once we got to the NIT. Because when we played Florida State, they literally just whooped our ass.
Mhm.
And it had nothing to do with talent. It really had nothing to do with talent. I mean, it was just that I think that our morale was really still down from not making it to the tournament.
Yeah, and like obviously talking with Soak before, like making this connection happen, like he told me a lot about those experiences as well, and like how that next year, like the following year, you guys obviously bounced back and that Sweet 16 run came. So what was that like preparation like going into his senior year? This was your sophomore year, right?
My sophomore year, yep. We had said to each other at the end of the season that the following year, there was going to be no way anybody was going to stop us from making the tournament.
Right.
We knew we had the talent. We knew, and then that was the year with Penders and stuff like that, that we knew that we had all the components to make a tournament run and to get to the tournament. So we weren't going to let anything deter us or stop us from getting there. And we had that mindset from the first game to the last game. Mm-hmm. And we truly believed that no matter who we played, that we were better than them. And we really kept that mindset going through the whole season. I mean, we still have the record for the most wins in URI history.
Right. Yep.
And like I said, it was because we knew that we had the talent to do it. And we were going to go out night in and night out and prove it. And we said that we're not going to allow the tournament committee to take anything from us. We're going to put ourselves there. So that way we don't have to worry about a bubble or anything else. And we knew that. So, I mean, at that year, Temple was in the A-10 at that time. And with Coach Chaney, Mark Macon, Tim Perry, they were ranked number one in the country, maybe a little more than half the season. Mm-hmm. And the way that it's set up, the tournament was set up and the seedings, that we knew for us to get to the final 8, we would meet them again. Now, the first 2 games of the season and then the championship game, we ended up losing to them. But I mean, each game was a close loss. It was never a blowout. It was less than, I would say, 7 points each game. So our goal was to get to them in the final 8. But we fell a game short.
Yeah, and of course, still an historic run. I mean, URI is still yet to come to that. So, I mean, to be a part of that and to be a part of that run, obviously it's a blessing. Like a lot of the people from URI and the alums, like I've seen like them posting, like you, Silk, all the guys, Tommy Garrick, all those kinds of dudes, like potentially might have your jersey like retired in the rafters. So like, how does that feel to be in that conversation, knowing your jersey might be one of the first to be hung up in the Ryan Center?
You know what? For me, it's not a big deal, honestly. I mean, and I tell everybody this, and it's the God's honest truth. It's not a big deal. I mean, for me, it's something that should have been done a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And why do I say that? I say that because when you bring kids in on recruitment trips and they walk into the Ryan Center and they look up in the rafters and they see 4 jerseys, and I think the latest jersey is probably Michelle Williams. I think she's 70-something or something like that. As a kid coming in, and if it's a 4-star kid, a 5-star kid, now they've been to bigger schools. They've been to other schools where they walk in and it's just their history is just celebrated. I mean, they've got banners and everything going around the gym. It gives you something to look forward to as a player. So if I do well here, I can bring my kids back and show them that's dad's number, that's dad's name up there. He was somebody here. He was something here. But for kids to walk in and not see anything like that, and I told some of the people in the athletic department, stuff like that, I don't care what you believe or what you think, kids think like that. Because no matter what, as a basketball player, when you finish your career, you want to be able to say, I was a member of this school, of this team. You don't believe me? Here's my jersey, here's my number, here's whatever else. I mean, I get, the Hall of Fame and all that. I'm like, but it's a big difference between being on the outside of the gym, looking at pictures going around the gym, or being inside the arena
where the games are happening,
jerseys and names up there. So it's a big difference. So, like I said, it should have been done a long time ago. for whatever reason it wasn't. I don't know. And it's not, I don't sit and ponder it. But there's been a lot of noise about it happening and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, I mean, there were great players before us. There were great players after us. For me, I don't care who you put up, just put somebody there. I said, you have to. I said, we can't have 3 jerseys retired. And then the latest one is in the 70s. I'm like, you literally say as a kid, nobody else went to this school.
Mm.
I mean, and then if I do well, I don't get my jersey or my name doesn't get retired. So it had to continue to bring the program forward. I think it's something that's very necessary, and it's been necessary for years now.
No, I agree with you 100%. And like, there's been, like you say, players that were like before your time and after your time that, you know, probably deserve it as well. And, you know, kids coming into it, they probably do some research and they see like the most recent guys who have been, you know, like pivotal in URI success and things like that. And they think, oh, he must have not have been that great because, you know, like you said, the jersey's not out there. Like there's no jerseys up there to prove it. And like you said, there's no jerseys in the gym from those times. Like they don't see it. And like that's exactly how kids going into it think. And
I mean, my whole point to that is, okay, and it's, yeah, and I am a little biased because these are guys that I played with. But
yeah, you explored, of course, you experienced it, yeah.
Take that away from everything else. Your all-time school leading scorer. How in God's name has his jersey not been retired 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
To this day, nobody has still caught him. And that's so. So how do you not celebrate that after all these years? I mean, okay, he's out of school 35 years. How has that not been celebrated 20 years ago? You know,
I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
To me, it's just weird. I mean, I've heard different things. Well, how do we decide who to do it and who goes first? Just put somebody first.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
And then everything else, like dominoes, the rest will fall in place. Exactly. But you've got to start with somebody. So the easiest thing is you start with the all-time school scoring leader. And then you put a committee together, let them go through, okay, maybe this person, maybe, and then you do it that way. I said, but it has to be done. And it's just really disheartening that it hasn't been. It was brought to my attention that someone said that ex-players don't give back to the program. I said, why should we? And I was looked at like I had 2 heads.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why should we?
I don't get anything in return.
You haven't celebrated us. So why should we help you? You know, I'm like, if you look at all these big schools and stuff like that, they have ex-players on their staff, players who played in the league, players who have done this, yeah, they give back to the program, but they're celebrated. They have jersey, they have retirement games, they bring these guys back during the summers to, you know, they bring them in for a day and they have, you know, meals and whatever else just to shoot the shit with each other and just said there's never been anything like that for us. So why? I mean, you don't celebrate us, so why should we help you?
I can tell you've been asked this question before a couple of times, and I completely understand the frustration too. You know, kind of go back on the playing realm of it. After that Sweet 16 run, how were the last 2 years of your college career? How did they pan out for you?
And they were good. I had a bigger role.
Mm-hmm.
More
stepping up as a junior and senior, right?
Yeah, more of a leadership role and stuff like that. Which I was okay with, but I wasn't okay because that just wasn't me. Yeah. I mean, for me, you know, I was always happier in the shadows, in the foreground and stuff like that. Let everybody else, you know, take all the publicity and everything else. But we had decent years, decent seasons. We lost a lot of talent. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was just, you know, at that time, my junior and senior year, I was with Coach Skinner, and you know, Coach Skinner was more like he was more like a brother than a coach.
Right.
I mean, any issue you had, I mean, you can call this guy at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and he legitimately was going to sit there and listen to you. If he had to come on campus for whatever else, he'd come on campus. You know, so he was. I mean, it was great playing for him. And I mean, we had decent teams, but we just didn't have the personnel to really make pushes toward anything. But I mean, it was fine. I mean, we enjoyed each other. And that's what I can say about my 4 years there. Every team that I was with, each group of guys I was with, we truly enjoyed being and playing with each other.
Mm-hmm. It seemed like it, yeah.
I've watched a couple of the teams since I've come back and stuff like that. And you can always see that there was a little animosity somewhere on that team, on these teams, and if as a player, you see that, even though like the average fan might not, but as a player, you see it, and you see it where it comes from, as when they go back to the bench, when they're in a huddle, whatever else, you see that little bit of animosity. And so when I came back and I was on campus, it was the weirdest thing. Like for us, we were so visible on campus. We'd walk to class, we'd hang out on the quad, stuff like that. And we were with the student body. I mean, we were anywhere you saw us, you saw a bunch of students and stuff like that. We'd hanging out with the students. When I came back, I don't think I saw one player walking on campus. And to me, that was just weird.
Yeah.
And then when I found out that they had made, there was a dorm for the athletes and they were in their own dorm and stuff like that. To me, I thought that was a little standoffish, weird on that part, because as players, you want your players interacting with the students, because that's how you get the students to come to the games.
Exactly.
Now they have a personal relationship with you. Oh, I know this guy. We hang out. We're hanging out in the dorm and stuff like that. Oh yeah, we're gonna go see them play and stuff like that. It has nothing to do with winning. Of course, well, let me rephrase that. It does have a lot to do with winning, because nobody wants to go see a team play that's losing, especially students. I'm like, I can do my homework. I got a test tomorrow. I can study for my test tomorrow instead of going to see these guys play. But if they're around those students, even if they're having losing seasons, they still have a personal relationship with the students. So they're still going to come out to support these guys.
Right.
So, I mean, you saw a lot of that the last 2 years, where, Ryan Center, it just seemed like it was emptying out. I'm not talking about your diehard fans. I'm talking about the student body section. You just saw game-wise, it was getting less and less and less and less. Mm-hmm. And to me, I chalk it up. I say it has a little bit to do with losing on the students' part, but yet it's because they don't have that personal connection with the players.
Of course, I agree with you 100% too. And like, I've seen it, like, because I've been obviously a Rams fan like my whole life, and like now being able to like join the program and try to like get myself involved on campus has been great. I visited a couple of times, and like the last week I saw the Mitchell twins, who like just committed to Arkansas now. I believe they had put their names, they declared for the draft. Now they're going to Arkansas, and like it's gotten better. Like I've seen like they're like students were with them hanging around. It's not like they were like secluded. So it's good to see like coming from your point, like it's gotten better obviously over the years and things. And the student section has been more supportive even in the losing years as well. But like kind of going off that, when was like the last time that you were on campus and you were able to catch a game?
Oh God, the last game that I saw was probably, I didn't catch any games this past season. Well, no, let me no. Did I? No, this past season I didn't. The year before, I probably made it to maybe 3 to 4 games. So the season before COVID, I got to maybe 3 to 4 games to watch.
Yeah. So what'd you think of like the atmosphere, and like did it kind of bring back some old memories of you, like on the court and things like that?
Yeah. It really did. The Ryan Center is completely different than Keeney Gym. Keeney Gym was a pit. Everybody's right on top of you. With the Ryan Center, you've got the more upscale arena, stuff like that. So, there's a lot more space and stuff. Keeney was a pit. I mean, your visiting team, you've got bleachers right on top of their bench and people right on top of them. So it was different. Ryan Center, they did a really good job building it. It's nice. There's a couple of things that I felt that they should have done better. They should have had 2 monitors instead of 1.
Yeah.
What do you do for the people who are sitting underneath the monitor? They have no idea. They don't see whatever else. I mean, I don't think they have replays. So it was just minor things that I thought were a little weird that they didn't incorporate. But I mean, this time, and I'm sure that they've been, brought up in discussion and stuff like that. So, but the gym's a beautiful gym. It's a beautiful, beautiful gym. They did a really good job, and the teams that played in it deserve to play in it. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm very excited to get, very eager to start and get right on the scene over there. And, kind of going back to kind of like wrap things up, going back to like your senior year and things, leading the NCAA Division I blocks with 124, like just insane numbers. And then like, preparing for the draft, preparing for like the professional level. I want to know like kind of like your workout, like your mindset, like throughout, college, like staying in shape, working out every day, working on your game. What are like the types of like routines like on the court you follow to always like get ready and be in shape for games and like the off season as well?
Well, for me, it was different. It was completely different than everybody else's because of my knees. Well, my knees, with the injuries, I spent my off-season training and even my season training, I spent 90% of the time in the pool. Mm-hmm. So all my workouts consisted either of a stationary bike or in the pool. So that's how I stayed in shape. It was incorporated by Coach Penders when he got there. And I just continued with it because I stayed in good shape doing it. My pool workouts were, we'd have practice for 2 hours and 15 minutes. For an hour and 45 minutes, I'm in a pool. Mm-hmm. And it's not just, I'm in there just BSing around. I'm doing sprints in the shallow end. Yeah. And if people who swim, just trying to run against a current or running against the water, it's almost impossible. So, but it helped. It helped a lot, and it kept me in shape. And I continued it in the off season. My only regret, my 4 years of playing, was that I didn't concentrate a lot more weight wise in the weight room and stuff like that. Especially with my junior and senior year, because I felt I was just so athletic. Mm-hmm. If you're stronger than me, then I'd be quicker than you, or I'd jump over you, or whatever it may be. So, but I learned quickly once school finished and my professional career started. My first year, I ended up going to Italy, playing in Italy, and I actually played with Bob McAdoo, and our coach was Mike D'Antoni. Who used to be the coach for Houston and stuff like that. Yep. And Mike brought me in to play center. So the same thing he was doing with Clint Capella. I just want a big man just to run, jump, dunk, whatever like that. Same philosophy. And that was great. I mean, my first month over there, I'm averaging 25 and 12 or something like that. Wow. But after every game, I'm spent because offense is easy. It's defense. Now I'm 6'8", 220, playing against 7'2", 300, 280 on defense. And they're knocking the god-living mess out of me night in and night out. And, and I'm going home after games and I'm bruised and I'm sore. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to practice tomorrow. I can't do this. And from that point, I really put a lot of time, a lot of focus in the weight room.
So yeah, the weight room kind of transitioned to your professional career. Like you said, you wish you kind of did it more in college, right? So yeah, like playing about like 12 years around, like about to the time I was born, like around 2002. Like I guess to kind of wrap things up, how do you feel like your overall like professional career was? I know you played like in a couple of different countries. Like what are those experiences like, and how was it comparable to like the college level, like the pace of the game and like you said, the physicality and things like that?
Well, I spent 7 years in Spain and just absolutely loved it. Yeah. I was very lucky. I got put with an unbelievable coach and an unbelievable team. And just my time in Europe was just tremendous. I loved it. I mean, competition-wise, Europe was a lot more physical than being, in college and stuff like that. And like you said, you learn how to handle certain situations very quickly, especially if it's your livelihood. So after my first year in Italy, I knew I wouldn't have any issues no matter where I went. Mm-hmm. I knew because I understood after the first month of playing, I understood how European basketball was going to be, and I adapted to it very quickly. So I mean, it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, I had opportunities to come back home, and my agent would like to say every summer, okay, we got an offer to go here. We got an offer to go to this NBA team for veterans camp and stuff like that. And I used to always say, is it veteran guaranteed money? He's like, no. I'm like, well, we have veteran guaranteed money in Europe, so that's where I'm going back.
Right.
And he was always a little disappointed
Mm-hmm.
because he was always saying, you've got a great chance and a great. I said, yeah. I said, listen, I played with a lot of these NBA guys in the summer leagues down in New York and stuff like that. And I mean, and they would always say, why aren't you playing here and stuff like that? I'm like, listen, if you can go to your team and say, okay, we're gonna offer you a guaranteed contract. I said, I'd be the first one there in the gym. I said, but if you're gonna say, well, we're just gonna bring you back to vets camp, and we'll give you for vets camp at that time, I think everybody was guaranteed $25,000 or something like that to come to vets camp. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna pass up a guaranteed contract that I have overseas for a possibility here. That just wasn't me, So, and I knew that I can play in the league with a lot of the guys that I play with in the summertime and stuff like that. But it just, for me, I say, if I can't have guaranteed, it's not worth it for me. So, I mean, and I enjoyed being over in Europe. I really did. I enjoyed it. I had a very good career. And I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Yeah, and I definitely wish there was some footage out there of those days. And
there is. I'll send you some of it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to see some of that for sure. Definitely, and it's a cool experience. Like to hear that coached by Mike D'Antoni and played with NBA great Bob McAdoo. Like that's like insane. I know. Like
I mean, playing with Bob, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Once again, everybody knew what Bob McAdoo with the Lakers and stuff like that. So when I first got there, I didn't know he was on a team. He was the one that actually picked me up from the airport. And I'm looking at him like, dude, what are you doing here? He's like,
wow.
So we talked on the way and stuff like that. First day of practice, I'm just watching them, and I'm like, well, this is what it must be to be a veteran and an NBA veteran and an NBA All-Star. Bob would run from free throw line to half court, back to the free throw line to half court. That's as far as Bob would go.
Wow.
We literally played. I mean, he'd get down on defense every now and then, but we literally played 5-on-4 every day. Because Bob would go from free throw line to half court, free throw line to half court. That was Bob. But when you paid your dues and you've done what he's done, who's gonna say much to you?
Mm-hmm.
So but it was great. I mean, there's not one time that I've said to myself, what if I stuck with it and really tried and stayed in the States. It's not one time that I ever said that.
That's good. That's all you can really ask for. I mean, you look back at plentiful amount of opportunities and experiences. Like it's just, and like I said, I definitely need some of that footage, man. I gotta see it.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm going to send you some. Yeah, I will. I promise you.
So I mean, that kind of does it for. I mean, like wraps up all the questions I had lined up, and like appreciate the time, Kenny, for you taking time coming on the show. And I know you've been on. Yeah, no problem. I know you've been on a lot before too, so I know it's kind of like like another one of those things. But
no, not at all. Not at all. I enjoy it. Anything that I can do to help you guys out, that to help further you guys' career, and in the journalism and stuff like that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it so much. It pushes me at the end of the day to keep being great, because at the end of the day, I was a player, and I wanted to obviously pursue the college level. I didn't have that great of a senior year. I had a coach who passed away at the end, so he wasn't able to coach me, and that kind of prevented some of my chances. Like if I feel like if I had him and more of a model, I could have maybe pursued it a little bit. But this passion, podcasting, broadcasting, journalism, it's still being around the game. So that's why I'm trying to instill that mindset I had as a player into this, and try to get as many big guys as I can. And like I said, I couldn't be more grateful to have you on and all your teammates as well. And
appreciate you. We appreciate you, Cam.
No problem, man. And last question, just end it off. What'd you think of the show, and who might you want to see as a featured guest for next time, hopefully?
No, I mean, I'm really pleased with the way that you conducted this. Who I'd like to see, I mean, from what I understand, you've had me and Silk, so I think for me the next most valuable person would be Tommy.
Yeah,
Tommy Gill. Hometown hero. Had a stellar career at URI, a stellar NBA career, doing great things coaching now, so, I think that would be the next best thing.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to, get in contact with him and do as best as I can, keep reaching out to all these different guys. And, like I said, plenty of times, Kenny, I appreciate the time, and I'll let you know once this is out and once
Appreciate
probably
you,
be out about around next week. So I'll let you know.
Okay. Definitely appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great night.
You too, man.